Friends, hello everyone! I'm happy to welcome you to the Holly Lolly channel. Today, we'll discuss whether it's really worth dreaming about becoming a Japanese school student. After all, behind the beautiful facade, there can be serious problems that are rarely talked about. When we think of Japanese schools, we immediately imagine something ideal: friendly teachers, neat uniforms, incredible discipline, and children who study diligently and receive excellent knowledge. This is, of course, true. The Japanese education system can serve as an example for many other countries, but no place is perfect. One of the most painful issues for parents and children remains bullying. And unfortunately, it exists in Japan as well. Everything here is built on total collectivism. Everyone must be the same uniforms, backpacks, and rules for everyone. Even accessories are prohibited, no bright hair clips or keychains, because it's simply not allowed. In some schools, wearing thermal underwear in winter is even banned if it's visible under the uniform because it doesn't match the overall appearance. PE classes are often held outdoors, even in winter. Boys and girls wear shorts and t-shirts when it's just 5 degrees Celsius. Let me remind you that Tokyo is very windy, and these 5 degrees can sometimes feel like -3 to -5 degrees, which is extremely cold. A child spends the entire lesson in just shorts and a t-shirt and turns pale from the cold. This is considered a way to toughen them up, but the same standards apply to everyone. You can't wear tights, thermal underwear, or anything underneath. From an early age, children here are accustomed to the cold. For example, in winter, small children can be seen in strollers with bare legs. What do I mean? For instance, an infant, a small child, is carried in a sling with bare legs, not just without shoes, but even without socks. In my country, a baby born in winter would be bundled up in warm clothes, while here, it's the opposite, they're exposed. What do you think of these habits? Write in the comments what you think about this. By the way, hats are not worn in Japan even in freezing temperatures. In winter, you can often see schoolchildren walking down the street without head coverings and dressed lightly. Last winter, it snowed in Tokyo for just one day, and even then, I saw children walking around in shorts. And if a schoolboy or schoolgirl tries to dye their hair or get a manicure, it will likely result in their parents being called to the school. Let me tell you a story. I met up with a friend about 6 months ago. It was summer, and I noticed that her daughter had dyed the tips of her hair pink. I asked how the child would go to school since that was prohibited. At the time, it was just summer break, and school was starting in about a week. She said they would either dye it back to black or cut it off. I was very surprised. Later, I saw her again and forgot to ask because she hadn't dyed her hair back. I don't know if they were allowed to keep it or if no one said anything. It's interesting because she also told me that such things were only allowed during vacation and not during school time. So how did she deal with this problem? I'm really curious. Children are taught from a young age that personal desires and individuality are not as important as the well-being of the group. It's especially difficult for hafu children. Those with only one Japanese parent are called hafu, which literally means half. They often face challenges and can never truly feel 100% Japanese. I can't even imagine how painful it must be to be born and raised in Japan, speak Japanese, live by its traditions, and still be considered a foreigner your entire life. Sometimes, people jokingly remind them that they're not fully Japanese, and sometimes, they say it seriously. There is a documentary film called Hafu that describes the lives of 5 people and what it's like to be half Japanese in Japan. For example, one of the main characters, Megumi, shares her memories of school and recalls how a teacher singled her out in class because of her English skills. He said it came easily to her because she wasn't fully Japanese. It doesn't seem like anything serious, but it made her feel separated from the group once again and different from the others. Or take Alex's story. He was constantly bullied at school. The bullying was so severe that when he was in the 3rd grade, he decided to go to his relatives in Mexico on his own. By the way, an interesting fact, here, children attend school strictly based on their registered address. If you want to enroll your child in a public school, you won't have much choice. You are assigned only to the nearest educational institutions. On one hand, this is convenient since the school is always close to home. On the other hand, if for some reason you don't like the school or there are issues, such as bullying, switching schools will be very difficult. You can't simply transfer your child to another public school. Of course, there is the option of switching to a private school, but that comes with another problem: it is very expensive. Another my acquaintance also has a child who is hafu. She is Slavic, and her husband is Japanese. Their child has a hairstyle that is not quite typical for Japanese people. He likes it and wants to keep it, but he is constantly bullied because of it. He is bullied for being different, for not being fully Japanese, and for having a hairstyle that seems unusual to others. I think you understand what I mean. Japanese hairstyles suit people with thick hair very well, but this boy has a different hair texture, so those hairstyles don't suit him. He is a teenager and wants to express himself, even though in Japan, individuality is not encouraged because everyone is expected to be part of the collective. Unfortunately, because of this, he faces daily bullying. Exclusion from the group can also affect foreigners. Of course, children with European or African features inevitably stand out in a Japanese school. Even if a child speaks perfect Japanese and follows all the rules, they will still be perceived differently. And if the child struggles with the language or doesn't immediately understand how to behave in the group, it can become a real problem. Foreign children might be ignored, avoided, or even teased. The saddest part is that such students rarely receive support from their classmates. If someone stands out, supporting them means standing out as well. As a result, most children remain silent or, in the worst cases, join in the teasing. I am very grateful that this was never our experience. My son Sasha is in elementary school, and over time, we have changed schools several times due to our registered address. We moved a lot, so we had to switch schools. We were very lucky that he never faced bullying in any of these schools. On the contrary, Japanese children did their best to help him. He would arrive at class, and one girl would immediately take off his backpack. Another would open it and start laying out what he needed for the lesson. They took care of him, knowing that he didn't know the language. And Sasha never asked anyone for help. They did it on their own. We were fortunate to encounter very friendly classrooms, for which I am truly grateful. I would even say that the children were drawn to Sasha and showed great interest in him as a foreigner. So, of course, you can't say that in 100% of cases a foreign child won't be accepted into the group. Quite often, it's the opposite. Children are curious about others who look different, have different habits, or come from different cultures. They are friendly and eager to share their culture, teach, explain, and help at every step. But unfortunately, not everyone has such a smooth experience. I have heard stories from acquaintances whose children faced unkind treatment from their classmates. It is especially difficult in high school. Teenagers are more aware of the importance of collective unity. They understand how crucial it is to be like everyone else, and as a result, they are even harsher toward those who don't fit into the system. By the way, Japan has another unique feature that can add extra stress. School classes are reshuffled every year. Imagine that you have just gotten used to your classmates, made some friends, and then a year later, you find yourself in a new group again. This can be a real challenge. Every year, students have to adapt all over again, getting used to new people. And often, it all starts from scratch. The same feeling of loneliness, the same attempts to fit into the group. For Japanese students, this is more familiar, and they find common ground with each other more quickly. But bullying is not just a problem for foreigners or half-wit children. Even Japanese students often become victims if they stand out even slightly. In Japanese beauty standards, slimness is the top priority. If a child is overweight, they are automatically placed in the category of different kids. And as we know, children can sometimes be especially cruel to those who do not fit their idea of normal. The scale of this problem is actually enormous. Every year, hundreds of thousands of bullying cases are reported. And these are only the cases that become known. Many children simply remain silent. Some are afraid, while others are too ashamed to admit that they are being treated this way. Research shows that about 30% of school children in Japan experience some form of bullying. Imagine that every third student. Children can suffer serious psychological trauma, and sometimes, the consequences are truly tragic. Unfortunately, this is why Japan has begun taking measures. Many schools now have professional organizations that help children cope with such situations. Special training programs are held for teachers and students to foster mutual respect and create a safer school environment. Now, let's talk about how teachers handle such situations, or rather, how they sometimes fail to intervene. In Japanese schools, teachers often try not to get involved in conflicts between students. The reason is that acknowledging bullying in the classroom can significantly damage their reputation. If it becomes known that bullying is happening under a teacher's supervision, it is seen as their personal failure. And yes, this can seriously impact their career, salary, promotion prospects, and working conditions can all suffer simply because there were problems between students in their class. Because of this, many teachers prefer to turn a blind eye and handle issues at the most minimal level to avoid drawing public attention to them. In Japan, a school's reputation is extremely important. Any scandal can lead to a loss of trust from parents, a drop in the school's ranking, and a decline in applications from new students. As a result, schools sometimes do everything they can to cover up serious cases of bullying. Even when situations become severe and the parents of the victim try to hold the school accountable, administrations often just deny everything. Another factor is the students themselves. Even if a teacher wants to help a bullied child, this can sometimes make things worse. For example, if a teacher supports or tries to protect the victim, other students might decide to bully them even more, but in a way that adults won't notice. And again, this all ties back to the idea of collectivism. Teachers in Japanese schools are expected to treat all students impartially. They cannot single anyone out, even if they see that a child is suffering. Highlighting one student would mean disrupting the balance of the group. One of the most tragic bullying cases that managed to gain public attention happened in 2022. It was the story of Sei Matsunami, a boy who took his own life because of school bullying. Sei endured mistreatment from his classmates for several years. He was only 12 years old, and like any other child, he just wanted to go to school, learn, and make friends. But reality turned out to be different: constant mockery, isolation, and humiliation from his peers. Sei reached out to teachers and school administrators for help, but his cries went unheard. His mother also tried to intervene. She suggested that Sei stay home and avoid school to reduce his stress, even just a little. But the boy continued attending classes, hoping that the situation would change. In the end, they decided to transfer to another school to start over. However, bureaucratic difficulties in Japan made this process impossible. His older brother had also attended the school before him and had experienced pressure, mainly from the teachers. For example, the music teacher would insult his brother in front of the entire class, claiming that he was worthless and would never achieve anything. This attitude gradually extended to Sei as well. When neither the school nor the adults could support him, the boy took a step that shocked his family and the local community. In Japan, it is commonly believed that the success of one person is the success of the entire family or even the school. Because of this, society, from parents to teachers, expects a child to be the best, not just good but outstanding. From an early age, children feel this pressure. First comes preparation for exams to get into a good elementary school, then a prestigious middle school, and then a top university. As a result, instead of enjoying their childhood, children start living by the principle that they must be first. To meet these high expectations, many students attend additional classes at private educational centers called suku. These are not free extracurricular activities but specialized schools that prepare students for exams, which determine their entire future in Japan. Suku starts right after regular lessons and ends late in the evening. After that, children return home and start doing their homework. On the one hand, this teaches responsibility and teamwork. On the other hand, if something doesn't go well, students feel immense pressure, because no one wants to be the weak link. Without a doubt, this system has its advantages. Japanese children learn from an early age to set goals and achieve them even if they have to overcome difficulties. They grow up to be disciplined, determined, and capable of working in a team. Many Japanese admit that school taught them to give their best effort. This helps them in both their careers and personal lives. If a Japanese takes on a task, they will do everything possible to make it perfect. The idea behind this system is to teach children to be the best. But the question is, to what extent is this justified? When you live under constant pressure to excel, the joy of the process is lost. As you can see, Japanese schools are far from the perfect image shown in movies and anime. There are advantages, such as discipline, high educational standards, and teamwork skills, but there are also downsides, strict rules, societal pressure, and a lack of individuality. Of course, it's impossible to generalize. For some, Japanese school life can be an exciting experience, while for others, it can be a difficult challenge. What do you think? Would you like to experience being a Japanese student, even for just one day? Or do you already know that it's not for you? Please write in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and see you in the next videos. Bye bye!